My job, when I had an opportunity to do somebody some good, and if there was a way that they didn't have to go to jail, I didn't take them to jail. But I was a people person first, and I think that's a lost art in law enforcement now.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Jefe Sports Podcast. Today is a very special day. I got one of my lifelong mentors, one of the best coaches I've ever had, Mr. Terrell Williams, Coach T. What's up?
Hey, man, how you doing? Glad to be on. Thanks for having me.
Of course, Coach, man. How you been? It's been a minute, Coach. How you been?
Yeah, it has, man. We've had the opportunity to talk through social media, but man, it's good to see your face. I've been following your podcast, been following all of the guest speakers that you've had on. You guys are doing a tremendous job, so it's good to see you doing good things. But everything's been good here.
Thank you, Coach. I appreciate that. Well, first off, I want to say congratulations to you on that state championship, Coach.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Tell me a little bit about that journey, because this was a hell of a year to win a state championship.
Yeah, well, the funny thing about it is, in my many conversations with Coach Speck, um, in January, we felt really good about what we had coming back and how advanced and mature the incoming junior class were. We only came back with 22 seniors. But they were 22 really good kids. But we knew that we would be a junior heavy team at the varsity level this year. Um, we initially looking at it by the time we got to from January to May, I was thinking we might be a year away, but if some of the kids overachieved and we did some things the right way, and continued to play hard, that we had a really legitimate shot at making it to the state championship. And that was kind of some of the discussions that I had with some of the assistant coaches, that maybe we're a year away, but I think we may have enough this year to actually to get through it, especially with we play a brutal 10-game schedule. That being reduced to 6 games, I think helped a lot with keeping the kids safe, keeping the kids healthy. And we managed to do that. And once we were able to do that and get through that 6-game regular season schedule in pretty good health, I felt like we would be able to make a pretty good run.
Mm-hmm. So, Coach, tell me a little bit about what this state championship meant to you, because, I've known you for a while, but some of my listeners might not know who you are and your story. So please tell me how much this championship meant to you.
Well, to go back, back in, a lot of people don't know this, but I've been at St. X for 7.5 years. But in 2016, I left to pursue a position as director of strength and conditioning at Walnut Hills. And I was very torn about my decision to leave that year. I went back and forth, talked to Coach Speck about it, talked to my family about it, but I was very torn about that because I was very close to those players. I mean, that was my first group of freshmen that Coach Carlo had gave me. So I considered that developmental group going into their senior year as officially my kids. And I was very, very torn in leaving those guys. And, when I left, I followed St. X football, and saw all the adversity that the program faced during the course of the regular season. But on the flip side, I got an opportunity to continue my interaction with, number one, you and a couple other players that were on that team, just following and guiding and advising and counseling guys along the way. But on the flip side, I got an opportunity to see the tremendous run that you guys made after a 5-5 season to go on and win that state championship. And I had mixed emotions about that. I was happy that you guys had made history, but I knew that I wanted to be there celebrating with you guys as well. So it was fortunate that Coach Speck invited me to come back when things didn't work out at where I had went. and I was able to come back. But that allowed me moving forward to really embrace what I call grind mode and embrace making sure that I developed the kids mentally and physically the right way, and all the things that I felt like I had kind of left on the table with that 2016 senior class. And that's kind of been my approach. I've been willing to put in twice the work to get the results that we want from our kids.
I feel like that really equates a lot to life too. Like if you really want to go and pursue something, you have to put all of your effort into it. You know, you can't leave anything on the table. You can't be half in it, half out. You always have to be fully embracing the grind. And I love that. I love that quote. It's another thing people might not know about you is that you were a policeman. How long were you on the force?
I was on the force 18 and a half years.
Okay.
I started in corrections, was promoted to patrol division, and then I was promoted to I did 1 year as in the FBI DEA task force, and then I went into the regional narcotics unit in the organized crime division, and that's where I finished my career at. I was also on the SWAT team there, so I was on the SWAT team from 1995 until I retired.
Mm-hmm. So, Coach, with all the race issues going on in our country, you've been on both sides now. You're a black man and you're also a former police officer. Coach, I want you to let's go back from the beginning and let's take a look at this. So there was killings and it kind of separated our country where people are standing up and going out in the streets, and you also see people saying, hey, not every police officer is bad, you know, da 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 da, and like there's just two sides of the argument. So, Coach, what did you think when you saw everybody choosing sides and it seemed to be that there was no unity?
Absolutely. Well, unfortunately, you know, I've been talking about this before the George Floyd situation, before the Breonna Taylor situation. I've been kind of talking to our kids about how I felt that the country was becoming more divided. And being at a school like St. X, I feel like God put me there as a vessel to try to bring some of these young future leaders together from a conscious standpoint regarding social issues, ethnicity, race relations, etc. Here's what I'll tell you. I was a people person first, always. And I credit a couple people in my life. My grandmother, my mother were people who migrated from the South, who were blatantly discriminated against, but taught us love, taught us to love everybody, also taught us that we would face discrimination in our journey, in our life journey. So they readied us for that. But they also told us, if there's something that you want to do, you're going to have to work twice as hard sometimes, because some people are going to look at you different, not because of the way that you act or perform, but simply because of the way that you look. And I knew at a young age that that wasn't fair or right, but I embraced it. So at a very young age, I worked twice as hard as everybody else to get to what I wanted. In sports, in academics, I made sure that I worked twice as hard. And when I got married and I started having kids, I handed those lessons down to them. And but at the same time, I handed down to them that even though you may get discriminated against because of the way that you look, do not discriminate against others because of the way that they look or the view that they have. Your job is to go out here and try to change minds and change lives and change people. Love is always going to conquer hate, always. And I've been teaching that, and I've learned that through my family, but I've been teaching that not only when I was on the police force, and yeah, I had to take people to jail, I had to arrest people, but my job was also to help people. My job, when I had an opportunity to do somebody some good, and if there was a way that they didn't have to go to jail, I didn't take them to jail. But I was a people person first. And I think that's a lost art in law enforcement now. I was mentored and through my field training officers, I was really placed in front of guys that had started in the 50s and 60s and 70s when I started. They had to get out of their cars. They had to actually know the business owners. They actually had to get out of their cars and walk the beat and walk and know their residences. They didn't just drive through and wave. They got out of their cars. They were personable, which makes a big difference regardless of what neighborhood you in. I was a black man working in a predominantly white neighborhood in Anderson Township, but it didn't change. I got out of my car. They had problems too, maybe not to the extent that some of my inner city neighborhoods had, but it readied me to be able to deal with all people, not just black people of my race, not just wealthy white people. It allowed me to be able to effectively deal with all demographics, all nationalities, all ethnicities, which allowed me to be a really good police officer. And I think at the end of the day, and I've been saying this for years, when are we going to implement, when we do the polygraph and we do the background investigation, when is the real hard question of, do you have a problem working in an African American neighborhood? Do you have a problem working in a predominantly white neighborhood? Do you have a problem or are you uncomfortable interacting with another race? That question is not on the polygraph. Those questions are not on the background investigation. Those questions are not on the voice stress analyzer. Want to know why? Because I took all three of them. It was all about honesty and integrity. But if you look at the systemic problem that we have, it's a people problem. It's people not being comfortable with dealing with another race or bringing their biases into their job, which is dangerous as a police officer. Because if you bring your personal biases into law enforcement, people get hurt. People even get killed. And we've seen that over the past. I'm pro-police. Let me say it again. I'm pro-police, but I'm against systemic racism at any level, whether it be law enforcement, whether it be in the academic setting, whether it be anywhere. So once we get that part figured out from a law enforcement standpoint, okay, because I feel personally that if somebody can be eliminated because of something on a polygraph or something on a background investigation, they should be eliminated if they cannot effectively deal with other ethnicities. Because at the end of the day, that's the job. It's a people business. And if you cannot effectively deal with people, you have no business putting that uniform on and putting that badge on and swearing to uphold the law and protect all citizens, not just citizens that look like you. And that goes for my white officers, my black officers, my Hispanic officers. That goes for all ethnicities across the board.
So, Coach, going forward in 2021, what can we do to come back together and unify as Americans?
That's a good question. It starts with, again, being in the people business. If you're not open-minded, if you've got a closed mind and you're biased, we'll be spinning our tires in mud. We'll be putting a Band-Aid over a gaping wound, which is what we've been doing. Diversity training. Diversity training is not going to do it. It's not going to do it because what happens is when you go to diversity training, they're walking in the door closed-minded, and then somebody's making them do it. There has to be open and honest and uncomfortable dialogue between all parties to get past this, because it's not a police problem. It's a people problem. So you got to remember that these police officers, before they're hired, everybody comes in the door with biases. Everybody does, whether they want to admit it or not. Mm-hmm. The question is, will you admit that you have these biases, and do you have an open enough mind to approach them and be willing to change. That's where it starts. That's where it starts.
I was one of your first kids coming into St. X, and that mindset that you instilled in me from age 15 to now where I'm at age 22 is crazy. Because every single day I'm looking at how can I get better? What can I do to take that next step in achieving my goals in life? And, you know, I like to think that I'm one of the few. You know, St. X kids, we get it. And there's other kids in America that get it, of course, but I don't know, coach. It's something different. It's something different. Like, I don't know if it's the grind mode or whatever it is, but every single day, I'm always looking to get better. I'm always looking to excel at something. Like, how can I leave my mark on this world? And I think I have to credit that to you.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate that again, man. It hits home and it's heartfelt when I know that 3, 4, 5 years after you left St. X, that you're still carrying that mantra, because that's the goal, man. That's the goal, because leaving there, that's the biggest question. Did they get it? Did they were they just doing it right in front of me, or did they really feel my passion when I was driving a lot of these lessons home in the weight room and during reflection, and all the other stuff that we deal with when we're transitioning from young boys going into being young men. Do they really get it? That's always my biggest question to myself. And when I see young men like yourself who started, that I got at 14 and now a grown man and is out here doing really great things, it makes me feel great. It really does, man.
Coach,
So I
let me,
appreciate you.
Coach, you've been through a hell of a lot in your lifetime. You know, as we mentioned, being a police officer, being a coach, winning the state championship. Coach, take me back to a moment where everything seemed to be coming down on you. You didn't know how you were going to make it, but somehow, some way, you stayed calm, you stayed cool, and you stayed wavy.
I'm gonna go all the way back to 1985. Okay, a lot of people don't know this about me. I had a brother named John. My brother was killed in a street fight. He was 16 years old. He was 2 years younger than me. And he was stabbed to death. And I was at a crossroad. I was on my way to play college football. And I was at a crossroad in my life where I didn't care much for law enforcement. Um, that was the birth of crack cocaine, and I had friends of mine that had been introduced to it to sell. I was approached uh, about selling it as well, but I reverted back to the teachings and the morals that were instilled in me by my grandmother and my mother. And I talk about this with a heavy heart, because had I not did that, I don't even think I'd be here talking to you right now. Um, Life is about choices, man. And after my brother was killed, I was in a very low place. I was bitter, but somehow, some way, by leaning on family and making great choices, I could have made the easy choice and went and got that fast money, but who knows where that would have led me to. Instead, I decided to go off to school, stay away from Cincinnati for a while. During that transition, I went from being a boy to a man. So by the time I came back to Cincinnati, I was ready to become a law enforcement officer. Things happen for a reason, but a lot of things happen based on the choices that you make. And once you make those choices, you got to be willing to live with them, good, bad, or indifferent. I was fortunate enough to be around great men in college football. I was fortunate when I came home to be around great men that mentored me. I was fortunate to meet Charmaine McGuffey, who's our current sheriff, who just got elected sheriff. She hired me back in 1988. Great person. I was fortunate to meet really strong men on my journey to go into law enforcement. But there were some bleak times. There were some bleak times from me transitioning from a young boy trying to find his way who had just lost his brother, and then transitioning into manhood and eventually becoming a law enforcement officer. So I say that to say this: learn to give your individual best. Take advantage of the people that are around you that offer you great advice. And then from there, give undying effort. We talk about effort all the time. Effort is not genetic based, effort is not talent driven. If you give the best version of yourself, that'll be more than enough. I tell kids that all the time at St. X. Give relentless effort in everything that you do. And if you've given the best version of yourself, then that's more than enough. And that's how I live my life now. And after I lost my brother John, I promised myself and I promised him that that was how I was going to live my life. He was better than me in sports. He was better than me. He could have been the best. But unfortunately his life was cut short. So I used that. I used that as motivation to do the right thing and be the right person and treat others right.
Mm, that's powerful, Coach. That's powerful. Thank you for sharing that story. So, Coach, before I wrap this up, is there anything that's going on in your life that you want to highlight or, talk about your gym? I know you guys are doing great things over there. Can you tell me a little bit about what's going on?
Man, it's about a 6,500 square foot facility. We uh we offer sports performance and personal fitness to all populations. Um, it's based off of everything that we've talked about in this podcast. Love. It's like that old school barbershop where the kid will come in and he might say, "Hey, I ain't got it today," and he gets his hair cut anyway. You know what I'm saying? It's like that old school barbershop or that old school corner store where the kid might go in and may say, "Hey, you know, I want $2 worth of bologna and crackers, but I only got $1." And that butcher gives him the $2 and gives him the crackers and takes the dollar and tells him, "Go ahead and get out the store." That's how I came up. That's how I was raised. We talked about being personable. We are a very personable and intimate training facility, which means we ain't in it for the money. And people say, "Well, Coach T, don't say that." That's just who we are. We are in it to help develop the minds and bodies of people and athletes who wouldn't otherwise be fortunate to come in contact with a nutrition plan and know how to hydrate, how to rest, how to stretch, how to train. So again, all I'm doing is extending what I do at St. X to the public.
Hmm.
It's just an extension of what we do at St. X. Those Jesuit values, I'm extending those to the people that I meet in the business environment in my gym. That's
Hmm.
it. I started it with my two sons. My son Tremel's a strength coach at Winton Woods High School. My other son's offensive coordinator and assistant strength coach at Colerain High School. So it's a family business. It's all about family. We encourage families to come in here and train together, pray together, etc. So, and if there's a way that we can help them through whatever, we try to figure that out as well. So it's a good deal. We've been open for about 2 years now, and it's going extremely well. I'm blessed to be doing it.
That's great, Coach. That's great. Now, where exactly in Cincinnati is that located?
It's in the city of Mount Healthy, which is a suburb of Cincinnati, and it's 8086A Hamilton Avenue in the Hilltop Shopping Plaza, which is right across the street from Mount Healthy High School.
This is a guarantee right here. If you go to Coach T, he will get you right, no matter what you do, no matter how you look. Coach T's trained them all from NFL athletes to regular people, and all you have to do is come with a mindset ready to learn and ready to get better. That's all you need, and Coach T will do the rest. And Coach T, I want to thank you so much for coming on today.
And I'm so proud of you. I'm so blessed, man. I talk to mom all the time on social media as well. And I'm always telling her about how proud I am of what you guys are doing. You, Justin. I follow all of you guys. Matt Bockhorst, Sean Clifford. I mean, the fact that all those dudes are captains on their respective teams and doing things at a high level, man. All I can say is I'll stick my chest out and I'm a proud coach, man. So I'm proud of all of you guys. I say God bless. I say continue to do what you do. Keep breaking the glass ceiling. The future is extremely bright for you. I'll see you broadcasting on one of the major networks here real soon. Maybe even your own network.
Thank you, Coach. I love you, Coach. This means a lot.